Why is putting women, minorities into video games, movies considered political? I actually prefer original black characters rather than repaints of old established characters. The reskins are basically the studios saying we don't believe an original black character would sell, but look, we made this super popular character black. It's all corny and lame to me face with rolling eyes. It's not political to simply put them in a game. It's considered political or pandering to the modern audiences, if it makes no sense in a historical context, like a huge group of Hispanic Vikings in 8th century Norway, or replacing established characters. One character used to be a white guy. Now it's a black woman. It's not political when it panders to me, is the simplest answer. There is a difference between displaying reality and forced diversity. If I play a game in European Middle Ages, I don't expect lots of black characters. It does not fit the context. If I play as a regular soldier, I do not expect to be surrounded by women. It does not fit the context. If I watch a documentary about the British royals, I do not expect a black actress as the Queen. It does not fit the context. Nobody complains for playing a black character in GTA SA or GTA 5 or an Eastern European in GTA 4. There is also the question of how these characters are portrayed. Does the gay guy have any other interesting character features apart from being gay, or does the entire story revolve around this aspect? Lastly, there is the horrible phenomenon of changing the race of an already established character. Imagine a new IP Man movie with a pasty Irish actor as IP Man. It would definitely create more diversity, but it neither makes sense in the context of the story, nor would it be necessary. If you want a pasty Irish character, come up with a story that fits. Any sane non-racist person has nothing against someone coming up with a story that involves minorities. Assassin's Creed has a female protagonist? Fucking finally. Assassin's Creed has a non-binary 14-year-old black person in a wheelchair as protagonist? WTF. No. Fictional example. Didn't happen. Yet. Context is important, and those that push an agenda of inclusion often ignore that just so that they can have more diversity. See The Witcher TV series as an example. Because claiming it's political allows people to hide their bigotry. At least in theory. If they were honest and just admitted they were racist, sexist, homophobic, etc., no one would listen to them. But if they frame it as the developers forcing their own ideology onto the consumers, they have a much wider audience. It's only considered political when it's done for the purpose of checking diversity boxes. For instance, the makers of God of War got pointers from a narrative consulting company, and next thing you know, Angerboda, a character from Norse mythology, is African. We do not care about a woman, minority being put in games. We care about this being prioritized higher than a good story, than realistic and well-developed characters, than entertaining us with a good game. A great comparison is the Star Trek TV series of DS9 and Discovery. The former focuses on good characters, good story, deep philosophical questions, and also includes a metric ton of progressive ideas, politics. And no one hates on this inclusion as it naturally fits into the world. That was 30 years ago. Discovery has terrible characters, idiot-see storylines, doesn't follow the rules of the universe that came before, barely even brings up any philosophical questions, and shoehorns in as much diversity and politics as it can. The series is hated because the inclusion is obvious, superficial, politically very one-sided and lazy. Nothing about it is new, or or deep. I think the main argument is that the amount of diversity shown in media is not representative of reality, and that a big motivation for the casting choice of characters becomes to show as much diversity as possible, i.e., to make a political statement and play a political game. Fight against discrimination by overrepresenting minorities, rather than casting being a creative choice that serves the story. Velma from Scooby-Doo is a canonically white character. In the most recent animated series she is black. Canonically there is no sensible reason why she's suddenly a different race. This change is purely to show more people of color in media. It is a politically motivated choice, and nerds don't like change. With the recent live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender, you've got heaps and heaps of people complaining about things that were changed from the animated series. Not complaints because it's necessarily worse, but complaints because it is different. People do not like change. It's only considered political if it feels ham-fisted, as long as the story makes sense with that person in the role. It's not panned. If it's generic action hero, and they just slot in diverse person, without it really making sense, then people get annoyed, because it looks like they're trying to check a diversity box without actually caring about the storytelling, and then expecting audience to be moved and high-fiving. It feels fake. Because if the story is only doing it for PR reasons, I guess it depends. Having a black character, for example, where a black character doesn't fit, could be called political, as it seems more to add representation than to make the game world make any sense. Like adding a black character in a Viking setting, for example. If a video game was made about African mythology, I doubt they'd suddenly make one of the characters white or Asian for representation. Same with changing the race of an already established character. But here it would depend on whether or not you consumed the previous media. Using myself as an example here, I wasn't aware that Nicky Fury was a white guy in the comics, as I'd never read them. So I think it was a great casting choice to have Samuel L. Jackson portray him. But someone who read the comics might think otherwise. That being said, I don't know why someone would complain if it's neither of those two things. There are, for example, people complaining about the lead in the new Fallout series being a woman. It's a new character in a new story. So I don't see why anyone would complain about that. Though I could see why someone would complain if the character was a new minority character, but just there as a literal token character. Just to cross off a checkbox. Such as a gay character having no personality beyond just being gay, or a black person just existing to stand in the background while being black. It isn't. Just like TV shows. Unless it's forced. To use the TV metaphor. No. Most friends groups are not a white woman, a black guy, a gay guy, and a white guy with issues of some sort. My main issue is that they're all horribly written Mary Sues that lack character development a lot of the time recently. Although I don't watch a lot of movies, I'll use Marvel as an example. She-Hulk sucked not solely because she was a woman, but because the writers made it ass. She was given everything and used to push the "women have it worse than men but are still better" idea, where she just instantly understood how Hulk worked and had no issues with it and was just better than Bruce. Game-wise, I don't really see an issue with women in games. More so, I see people complain about women being depretied in video games. Which is understandable. Everyone has preferences, and games are something primarily men play, whether the companies like that or not, and men like hot women. As for minorities IDK, I usually see them pretty well written and used in shows, games. Honestly, it's impotent outrage at the erosion and failure to maintain the status quo. Poorly guised under the thin veil of "there weren't any woman POC, queer people in a medieval setting," or historical inaccuracy. It's plausible bigotry with a pock of denial. But let's entertain these complaints as if they had been made in an earnest attempt to maintain semblance historical accuracy. Then why are the main complaints solely about having said minorities? Why not criticize in equal parts, say, chronological inaccuracies, poor adaptations of historical figures, or unrealistic depictions of the human ability? Let also argue that it's purely an annoyance at the disruption of immersion. The dragon, the magic, feats of inhuman strength, the plot holes, advanced tech, the liberties taken with deific figures, the alien races that are all a different variance of hot of blue or green with big tits is all immersive. But one minor or optional queer, POC, or woman with agency is just too much, man. To that I say, spare me your bigotry. 'Cause lots of white really think they're only ones playing video games. Because a lot of times it's not done in good faith and the game devs are just looking for brownie points. It's an old tactic of right-wingers. Because it is expected to keep politics out of polite conversation, they frame what they do not like as political, with the political goal of performing a normativity. If all characters in a game are white, it shows whiteness as the norm, which is a political statement. No matter how you design your characters, it will be political because art is never totally free of politics. Being political doesn't mean being preachy. You can criticize that. I always like to take Black Lightning as an example of that. But if your criticism is that it is too political, you just are too much of a coward to say that you dislike its politics. Lol, it's not because of politics. That's what YouTube has trained them to say. It's pretty obvious, really. There's a saying, there are two races, white and political. Just like, when talking about feminism, folks used to say, there are two genders, people and women. Bigots presume that white and male are the default. They treat the existence of the people they hate as an imposition upon them. So of course they consider it forced. They are, however, not wrong that it's political. Politics underlies civilization. It lets us live our lives. Damn near everything is political. That's just a bit more obvious if your civil rights are more precarious than, say, those of a straight white guy. Where they are wrong is in saying that political means bad. Really, they mean it's political in a way that opposes my bigotry.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.